Hello, Vigo Gallup here. Video number 2. Thank you everyone for who watched my first video, especially thanks to Ben Shore and Idget, Idget in Chief, aka Idget Reads and Rambles, aka Quinn. Um, Thanks for the support, specifically those two who I know for sure watched the video and gave me words of encouragement. You could find them on YouTube as well. If you don't know them, definitely check them out. Um, so uh, I last week, I believe it was, I met up with another booktuber by the name of Daniel Backer. He's got a YouTube video, TikTok videos. He's a writer himself. He lives in New York, where I live, and he organized a meetup group for to celebrate the release of Shadow Ticket, Thomas Pynchon's new novel. We all, most of us, purchased it that day at the local Barnes and Noble and local Strand by Union Square, and talked about Pynchon. We got to know each other, talked about One Battle After Another, which is a movie I really liked. I actually exceeded my expectations. I did not. Wasn't too sure if I was going to like it. I'm kind of have mixed feelings about Paul Thomas Anderson, so I would say that that's probably my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie. A lot of ways I felt it was took everything that was good about Vineland and narrowed it down to a way more coherent story. Because as those who have read Vineland know, there are a lot of subplots within that. If you want to call it subplots, the argument with that book is that there's no real main character, not really any real main. I guess there is a main plot, certainly, but the quote unquote subplots are so elaborated on the whole story about the sensei and all that. Anyway, it's been a long time since I read that book. I do really want to reread that. If I do, I'll make a video about it. But anyway, yeah, we got Shadow Ticket, and I started reading it. I'm about 50. No, excuse me. I'm almost 100 pages in. It's a pretty short book. It's 290 something pages. I'm really digging it thus far. At first, I wasn't too sure if at first I liked it. Then I felt like it got a little. Wasn't too sure if I liked it as much as I liked Inherent Vice. I still haven't read Bleeding Edge, but last night I spent about an hour or two reading it before bed, and I got really, really into it. So I'm really excited to pick it up again later today. And yeah, I think I'm excited to hear what other people have to say about it. It is, like all Pynchon books, it is a book that I definitely know that I want to reread already. I think it's complicated enough for me to get more out of it the second time around because there are a lot of characters in it. So it is a little bit easy. I do find myself getting lost in that, but I got to the point where I accept that as a thing that happens in a Pynchon novel. But I'm excited about it. I think that it's going to be fun. So today I'm going to be talking about some books I recently read and some books that I in the process of reading and some books that I recently purchased, or not purchased but bought, was mostly gifted to me. Um, so yeah, so in terms of books that I've finished, I recently finished The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter. It was a pretty good book. It's very short. It's a collection of short stories, and I have to say that I feel like it starts off with the main story, Bloody Chamber, and I liked the Bloody Chamber the most, and then the all the other stories did not quite live up to what the other ones were, what Bloody Chamber was like. Essentially, what she's a British writer. She's from the 20th century. She is interested in retelling German and French um, Gothic stories, fairy tales, Little Red Riding Hood, Bluebeard, um, and so childhood stories, and reframing them with a more of a 20th century like feminist lens with some um, uh, Marquis de Sade type of imagery that's pretty muted. It's not that makes it sound like it's very violent, but um, I was expecting it to be way more gory than it ended up being. I'm not necessarily saying that as a disappointment, um, uh, but I'm just think that it was um, that on a sentence level, I'm really impressed by Angela Carter's writing. I think that her writing is um, very mesmerizing and very poetic, and I could see poets being very um, into her. I could see why a poet would be interested in her writing. She's very visual. Sometimes I have to read and then reread some sentences just to make sure that I comprehended it. And sometimes that could get a little bit tedious. But I think that she's a very strong technical writer. I would recommend The Bloody Chamber. Um, the whole collection itself, only for people that are really interested in reading more about 20th century literature, learning about Gothic literature, literature that's influenced by psychoanalysis, influenced by feminism, interested in sadism, sadism as a philosophy. I mean, that sounds very weird, but for those who don't fully know what sadism is, it's that sentence could come off as a bit weird. But sadism as a philosophy. And so yeah, so that was one book I read. It was just okay for me. I would and but another book that I read, I will take out here. I liked significantly more was Late Fame. Um, Late Fame by Arthur Schnitzler. Schnitzler, yes. Um, Austrian writer from the 20th century, realist writer. At least this was an example of realism. I believe this was a posthumously published work. It's a novella, and it is about is he a playwright or a poet? He's a poet who who's not really a working poet anymore, and he works a pretty normal office day job. He's middle aged, and he gets a knock on the door from a young writer who who is a fan of his work, and has discovered that he lives nearby. He lives in the same town, and he invites him to a poetry circle, a kind of literary circle of different types of writers, all of whom have different personalities, and invites this prestigious writer to join them in creating a literary event, a reading um, that they hope to get a lot of press for. There was a twist at the end of it that elevated the work for me. But even if the twist wasn't in there, I think that I would have still liked it. The writing kind of reminds me of Stefan Zweig, whom I like. It's a realist work. It's character focused. It's not really doing anything crazy stylistically, but it's the type of realism that I'm into. Stefan reminds me of Stefan Zweig, and it's a time period that I really like. As I think I said in my previous video, I for a number of years now I've been into Austrian and German literature from the 20th century, and I've known about this writer for a while and wanted to um, read his work, and definitely want to read others in that same kind of circle. Um, so I have another book that I want to read in the very near future. Um, Hugo von Hoff, Hugo von Hoffmansthal, the Lord Chantos's letters, um, and that is another Austrian writer. I'm pretty sure he's Austrian as well, German language writer, who hung out in the same circle as this. And I believe I actually read that Hugo von Hoffmannsthal is actually a character in Late Fame. Well, a character is inspired by him, I believe, because I believe that they were contemporaries. Schnitzler, I think, was a little bit older than Hugo Hoffmannsthal. So I think that he's one of the younger writers in Late Fame. But yeah, Late Fame is great. I think it's going to go down as one of my favorite books of the year. Um, Definitely want to read his other book called Dream Story, which is influenced, as one could tell from the title, is influenced by Freudian psychoanalysis and dream theory of the time that was developing and getting popular. So I'm interested in seeing how he incorporates that into his work, because there was really none of that in. There was nothing kind of dreamlike about Late Fame. It was very realistic and grounded. Um, and So the other book that I can't remember if I talked about this, Hunger. I finished Hunger. I was pretty disappointed by Hunger the more I think about it. Modernist work, kind of modernist, kind of like this in between the kind of like movement from philosophical novels over to modernism. Um, I really thought that I was going to like it more. Um, Very Dostoevsky-esque, very nihilistic. The main issue that I had with it wasn't really the story itself. It mostly just had to do with the fact that I felt like it kind of got repetitive, um, and kind of felt a little bit aimless towards the end of it. But I liked most of it. I liked at least half of it, but it was a very short novel, so liking half of a short novel isn't really saying much. So it was kind of disappointing. So I'm still, in terms of books in progress, besides Shadow Ticket. Oh, I want to just say Shadow Ticket. What's interesting about Shadow Ticket is that it's set in the same time frame, or similar time frame as Against the Day. And in Against the Day, Austria is a very important setting, at least in some sections of Against the Day. And I noticed last night that there's a character who was introduced in Shadow Ticket last night, that has the same name as the main character in The Man Without Qualities, Ulrich. And I feel like that wasn't a coincidence. I posted on Instagram the other day that what Man Without Qualities makes me realize is that every chapter kind of feels different, in the same way that every chapter in Against the Day feels different. And again, the Austrian setting is important to Against the Day. Also, Ed Park, the writer of I was about to say One Bed After Another. uh, Same Bed, Different Dreams. Told me that, reminded me rather, that Robert Musil is mentioned in Vineland. So Robert Musil, I mean, of course, there's not a lot of writing out there about Thomas Pynchon and his influences, but Robert Musil has to be like a very important writer for Thomas Pynchon. So I definitely recommend people who are interested in Thomas Pynchon to read some Musil. So that makes me really interested in finishing this. So this is The Man Without Qualities, the first volume of The Man Without Qualities. This is not a book that I expected. I expected something very, very different. I thought this would be a little bit more like memory focused, like childhood memory, kind of like there are comparisons made between this and Proust, and maybe there is. I don't really know, but it doesn't really feel like it's like addressing memory in the same way that my understanding of Marcel Proust. I mean, I haven't read Marcel Proust yet, but like Karl Ove Knausgaard is writing multiple volumes of his childhood life and his young adult life, and his family and so forth. So I was kind of expecting, Without Qualities to sound more autobiographical, and perhaps it is, but it's written in a way that feels more like fiction, but like a type of fiction that I can't quite compare it to anything else. I heard it described as a book of ideas, and so there's some chapters that are focused on characters and um, so that are progressing the narrative to a slow degree, and a slow pace rather. And then there's some chapters that are like philosophical aphorisms, like philosophical meditations, philosophical essays on different topics. The book feels very quiet. There's something very like muted about the whole thing, and sometimes that makes me feel like a little bit not sure what I'm supposed to focus on. But I did talk to someone, and they said, who's read this book multiple times, you could read it slowly. So I'm just going to continue reading it slowly, and I'll just get what I get out of it. I'm not hating it. I just find it to be a book that's probably going to challenge me as a reader, which is great. I want to be challenged as a reader. Um, but yeah, I can't really say that I recommend it. I don't recommend it. I do think that if one is a Pynchon reader, though, that familiarizing oneself with Musil's writing might illuminate some other aspects of Pynchon's influences and Pynchon's kind of mission as a writer. And so yeah, I'm going to continue reading that, even if I read it extremely slowly. Speaking of slowly, I'm still reading Interpretation of Dreams. I've probably been reading this book for, I think, 2 years, if not longer. I don't know when I started this book. I think I started it maybe shortly after I finished Against the Day, I think. And I finished Against the Day in June of 2023. Yep. So it's been like 2 years. Has to be like 2 years, yeah. So yeah, and it's slow, man. It is slow. It's very um dense. I don't know why it needs to be so long. He's been writing a lot about masturbation. A lot. Pretty much there's a series of dreams that he describes, and he essentially just analyzes each one as like essentially a wet dream. And it's like, okay, dude, I get it. I don't know. I don't know how many more pages I have left. I probably have like 200 pages left. But I'm gonna finish it because I like torturing myself, I guess. But yeah, it's not my favorite Sigmund Freud. I definitely recommend Civilization Its Discontents. That book is one of my favorite books of all time. Fantastic text, very exciting to read for a philosophical text. I think it's a good entry point to get one acquainted or reacquainted with how to read philosophical texts, especially as a non-student. And once you get out of school, and life kind of discourages one from reading philosophical texts because they're just hard to read by oneself, unless you happen to be someone who just happens to like that type of stuff, or is good at that type of reading. So yeah, so that's what I've been reading. It's been an okay reading, the last few months. Some duds, some okay reading experiences. Shadow Ticket definitely being the most exciting, and Late Fame being a very good reading experience. The other ones have been kind of just okay, but I know that I'll probably when I finish Interpretation of Dreams and finish the Melancholy Qualities, I do think that those will be texts that I'll probably be able to think about more after the fact, and I'll probably, in that moment of rumination, I'll probably just get more out of it, and be proud of myself for finishing it. So that's really why I think I'm going to chug along. So yeah, as for books, I got three new books that were gifted to me. Very grateful for my friends who bought me some books. So the first one that was gifted to me was Larry McMurtry's Lonesome Dove. I have never read McMurtry before, but it's a long book, so I want to be less afraid of reading long books, because I know that I tend to read shorter books. I'm still intimidated by long books, but this will help me to be less intimidated. I want to read the Western genre. I want to read Butcher's Crossing very, very soon. I'll probably read that potentially after I'm done with Shadow Ticket. So yeah, so Western novels are not something that I'm familiar with. They're an important section of American literature. I don't read enough American literature outside of Pynchon. So yeah, I am excited to read Lonesome Dove. Speaking of American literature, I also was gifted Fight Club by Chuck Paluninuk. I read a few pages of this, and I got really absorbed into it. And I have to hold myself back from reading it at the moment because I just starting too many things. I almost thought about not starting Shadow Ticket, but I'm like, everyone's reading Shadow Ticket. I might as well. I own it. I want to read it. I know it's going to be an easy read. It's not going to take up that much time. Fight Club definitely doesn't seem like it will take up that much time. I've never read Paluninuk. I have read Bret, Easton, Ellis, who is another writer in that same kind of circle of like Gen X. Gen X writers. I read his Shards last year and really liked it. And just interested in. I'm not the biggest fan of the Fight Club film. I don't hate it. I also just don't love it. I mean, the book is definitely. I think it's overrated. I think the movie is overrated. Just like the cultural like relevance of that film is strange in my opinion, but it is what it is. But I'm definitely way more interested in the book. I think probably it'll be more exciting as a book. I think so. I'm really excited to read that. I've wanted to read it for a while. Also just want to get more acquainted with like Gen X writers. I want to read Donna Tart. I want to read Chuck Paluninuk. I want to read more Bret Easton Ellis. I want to read American Psycho, Less Than Zero. So yeah, I just want to know more about Gen X writers. And the last one is the Chalker. Don't know when I'm going to get to this. This book is way bigger than I thought it was going to be. So a lot of people are talking about this book. It's Shattenfroh, Michael Lentz, translated by Max Lawton. The writer is actually still living. I actually thought that this book was old, but it's contemporary. The writer is very much alive, pretty young. It looks like. I think he looks like he's maybe like 10 years older than me. I don't know exactly how old Michael Lentz is, but I was quite surprised by that. Yeah, that is a book. That is a long, long book. I don't really know much about it. Heard a lot of people have actually who've purchased it have also given up on it. So that doesn't make me too excited. That makes me a bit nervous, but I mean, we'll see when I get to it. I definitely want to read it. I'm interested in knowing why people are pairing it with Michael Kholhaas by Heinrich von Kliest. I don't know what the connection is. I don't know a hell of a lot about this book, Shattenfroh. I know that it's been compared to Joyce. I know that it is contemporary German language literature. And just kind of curious why people are if it's responding to Kleitz in some way or what the connection is. But I am a really, really big fan of Michael Kholhaas by Heinrich von Kleist. That was one of the best books that I've ever read. One of the best books I read in 2023, I think. If not the best book I read in 2023. I read so many good books in 2023. But yeah, that's pretty much it. This video was much longer than I expected, so that's good. I feel less intimidated doing these, so maybe I'll do more of them. Anyway, thanks for watching. Continue reading, continue talking about the books you're reading, and take care. Have a good day.